Hello, do you want to know the story of Alexander the Great? So, today I'll be telling you the story of Alexander the great conqueror of the period of Greece. And this conqueror is known to the world, and even today, he has influenced the world into the way it is, and many biblical and also other aspects and also prophecies were also prophesied that Alexander the Great will be in this world and would have conquered many parts of the world. So before Alexander the Great was there was the Persian Empire, which was the one leading the whole world. After the Persian Empire, now the person who brought up the next empire was Alexander the Great, who brought up the Greek Empire and is the greatest conqueror of the European countries, and he is the one that European countries have favor in him and also like him, because he brought a lot of things into the world and brought a lot of civilization also into the world. So before Alexander the Great, there was the Persian Empire, which had ruled for many years and also had conquered many parts of the world, and also it was the superpower of that time. The Persian Empire was like it was more greater than even the United States of right now. Imagine somebody conquering the United States and the only sole country. So that was like that during the time of Alexander the Great. He was able to conquer Persian Empire, and after conquering Persian Empire, he extended his empire to the Indian, also to the coast of Indian, and also further to the Indian border. So Alexander the Great did something which has never done before, because he explored almost to the end of the world, because India was basically the place where no one would ever been thought to reach over there, because at that time the map of the world was ending at India. So basically the people of that time knew India was the final destination and was the end of the world. There was no further place further than India, unlike Christopher Columbus, who they say he discovered America. At that time, the only known world was from Persian Empire. When you come to Egypt, Africa, and also India over there, that was the only place where it was known. So Alexander the Great was able to conquer and was able to extend his empire and also give fame to the European countries. So Alexander the Great was a king from Greek, and being a king from Greek had, I think, 4 colonies, and those 4 colonies were Sparta, Athens, Macedonia, and another colony. So it was four regions united to make the Greek. So, but among the four, the Macedonians were referred to as barbaric and also not following the type of law and order. So Alexander the Great came from his father was the king of Macedonia, who was known as King Philip, and King Philip was a tough leader and also was a warrior. He used to lead the army into battles, and this, by leading the army into battles, led into many victories, because he was the one who united the whole Greek into fighting and also into resisting the Persian Empire from invading them. So Alexander the Great, King Philip was his father. So later on in the years, when Alexander the Great, they give out a legend that Alexander the Great, when he was born from a royal descendant, and the day he was born and also the day he was conceived, the mother of Alexander explains to Alexander that he was conceived by the god Zeus. So Alexander, from growing up, he used to believe he was divinely sent on earth to fulfill his mission and also a purpose in his life. The mother was known as Olympus, and Olympus always doctrinated Alexander the Great to always remember that Alexander the Great is not just a normal child. He is a child who has heavenly descendant. And when you look at the stories of Achilles and also Hercules, and also right now Alexander the Great, These are people who believe, they're people who do great things. They're people who believe that they have descendants from the God, and also this belief made them to become great. Uh, and also the mother played a big role in this role, because since Alexander the Great was a small child, the mother used to insist on Alexander the Great that his father was Zeus, although Alexander the Great and a mother and his father, which is King Philip, weren't in a good relationship, because King Philip had a lot of wives, more than 6 wives, and Alexander was the first child, and King Philip had only two male sons. The first one was Alexander, and also the second one was another son, but he wasn't so strong. So Alexander had to take his part into becoming what the father wanted him to become as a warrior. So Alexander had a very challenge, because there was no one who was to replace him. He had to fulfill his own mission, and also to stand up to the mission of his father, to become the kingly figure that the father wanted. So the father, since he was young, Alexander, who used to be taught a lot of things, and used to be taught war and also combat. So he used to be taught on how to fight, and also there was one thing that the father always insisted on him. He insisted that he should always be the best among everyone. He should always be the best. And also the father also insisted that he should gain respect among his peers by natural. He should earn the respect from the fellow peers by fighting, and also showing them that he is able to fight. Although he was a king and also a prince, he should also be the one who fights and also becomes on top. It doesn't mean you being a king, you should be soft-like and also be not being able to fight. So Alexander was to set an example to the rest of his peers, and he should always be the best. And from the combat point, his father, King Philip, wouldn't tolerate him and wouldn't compromise him. He would always train him and always give him the hard task to do, so that he can bring out the best in Alexander the Great. So later on in the years, there's a mythical story which they say at around age 13 over there, Alexander the Great was given to Aristotle to teach him and also give him education on the laws of the world, and also engage him in educating him in also many parts of the world, and also give him wisdom at the age of 13, because education was a key point in ruling. So Alexander the Great had to do that. And many people know Aristotle because Aristotle is a great philosopher and also a great teacher at that period of time. Imagine the greatest teacher and also philosopher of the Greek period was the one who taught Alexander. Imagine now Alexander, the type of knowledge Alexander had. So Aristotle taught him about fellow people like Achilles, and also taught him about Hercules, and also Achilles and his friend Patroclus, and also told him, if you want to be Achilles, what does he desire? Does he desire to have a short period with a long fame all over the world like Achilles had? He lived a short life, but he is even famous until today. Or he could live a long life, which his life will end into oblivion. No one will know whether he had lived. So basically, Aristotle, what he was trying to tell Alexander the Great, he should choose to be great and also to be known all over the world. Although what life he would have, be it a short life or a long life, he should choose a short life. Better to have a short life with a good name and a long career after you're dead, than to have a long life which will just end into oblivion. No one will know about you. So Aristotle is the one who brought up and also intrigued Alexander the Great to have the mission to conquer all over the world. Because one thing Alexander the Great was worried about, he said that his father has already conquered every city and every place known to the Greek period. But Aristotle told him that that is not the only region. There are more regions, the Persian region and also the Indian region. If he wants to be great, he should conquer the Persian region and also the Greek region. So Alexander he saw his purpose on this. And one quote that Alexander the Great says that the father gave him a good life, but his father gave him a life, but Aristotle is the one who gave him a good life by teaching him. And also Alexander, since he was a small child, he was so brave and he used to do things which were so brave. So later on in the years, it says that the horse which Alexander was used to riding on and used to go into fights with, called Baphacalas, like that. It was called Baphacalas. That horse was one day, Alexander was the only one who was able to tame that horse. That horse was very wild. No one was able to ride the horse. The horse was so untamable, but Alexander, at his young age, around 13 to 16 years old, he was able to tame that horse. And also the story goes that he was able to tame this horse because the horse was hostile, because when it saw its own shadow, it used to become unfriendly, and also no one will be able to ride on it. So Achilles, with the sharp eyes, was able to see the problem with this particular horse. And what he did, he led the horse and made it look the other direction where it could not see its own shadow, and he was able to ride the horse from there. And that became his horse for many wars that he conquered with it. It became his best friend. So it was the best horse, but it wasn't so friendly. But Achilles was able to tame it. So later on in the years, at around 16 years old, Achilles was able to be head of the particular kingdom of Macedonia. At that time, Macedonia was mainly being looked up to by the other Greek communities because of the father of Alexander the Great, which is King Philip. And that time, for Alexander to be given that point to head Macedonia at the age of 16, King Philip had gone to another region, he had gone to fight another war. So he had left Alexander to be on the throne and also to look after the throne. So after King Philip was successful in the battle and they came into victory, and after coming to victory, he was supposed to celebrate. And after celebrating into victory, one thing, King Philip had decided to marry another woman. So marrying another woman, the mother told Alexander the Great that, you see, your father is marrying another woman. Your father is searching for another successor. If this woman gets pregnant, this one will be the successor of the whole of Macedonia. So Alexander became frightened because of this. And later on in the years, the mother was always telling Alexander the Great to kill his father because he might leave the kingdom to another person, which is that child, because it said that Alexander the Great, the mother wasn't pure Macedonian, but this woman that King Philip had got was a pure Macedonian, and he would have the blood of Macedonia. So it was a threat to Alexander and his dreams. So later on in the years, it said that they had a quarrel with the father, King Alexander, but after having a quarrel with the father was drunk. And that time, the father told Alexander that another person will become the heir of the kingdom. So Alexander walked out of that meeting furiously, and after that they went to live another place with the mother. But later on, the mother, King Philip, decided that she did a wrong thing and decided to unite with Alexander. After uniting with Alexander, what happened is, at that meeting of uniting with Alexander, the there was an assassin who came and assassinated the father, which is King Philip. After assassinating the father, which is King Philip, it isn't known today if it's the mother who sent the assassination to kill the father of Alexander, but it isn't known today. But it is speculated that it is the mother who sent out this assassin, because this assassin was the bodyguard of King Philip. So I think he thrusted a sword into the heart of King Philip, just like how Julius Caesar died because they thrusted a knife into him and they pierced him many times, just like Julius Caesar. But for King Philip, they thrusted they thrusted him only one time, and he was able to die at the age of around 40s over there. So it was on the hands of, the whole kingdom was left on the hands of Alexander, and that's how Alexander started conquering many kingdoms. The first kingdom which he conquered was the Persian Empire, and the Persian Empire, as I said earlier on, was the superpower, and no one will dare to conquer the Persian Empire. The reason which Alexander decided to conquer the Persian Empire is that the Persian Empire had acquired and also was threatening the Greeks. So what Alexander did was to counterattack them and decided to go after them. Although Alexander the Great had few troops and also had few cavalries than the Persian Empire, he had more tactics and he was used to war, because the Greeks were people who used to fight, and also the Macedonians, the Spartans, the Athens, these are people who were used to fight. So at that time, the Persian Empire was being led by a person called King Darius. So King Darius was the one who was heading the Persian Empire, and the Persian Empire will go further to the Egypt side, and also it was a vast amount of empire. So what Alexander the Great decided to attack a particular city which was for the Persian Empire, which led to an alarm to the King Darius that Alexander the Great wants to take over the whole Persian Empire. So King Darius decided to have a war and also go on a head-on-head war with Alexander the Great. But on the first war, King Darius was able to escape narrowly, because what Alexander the Great, they all gathered troops, but Alexander the Great used some types of tactics which was not known to them. He used tactics which was uncommon. He used to take risk, because when you expect him to come this certain type of way, he will use another type of way. And many military people say that the tactics he used, if you use them, you'll just be risking your whole life, and you'll obviously lose, because that's not a tactics a normal person can use. But Alexander, what he did, many people and many military people advised that you attack the weakest point first, but Alexander, what he did was he used to attack the strongest point. So where King Darius and his army was situated, he attacked there first. After attacking there first, the army would split. After splitting, he will be able to go direct on King Darius. So it was a very famous battle, and it was very intriguing on what Alexander the Great did, because it said he encircled them and also was attacking on the particular places, and also he used tactics which was very, very uncouth, and there were tactics which will have led him to defeat, but being so unpredictable, he was able to win these wars. So they say at that war, King Darius was having a upper hand, but it was an inch where Darius and Alexander and the rest of the army were able to come and support Alexander. After supporting Alexander, King Darius was able to flee, and after fleeing, it was showed that the King Darius was defeated. After King Darius was defeated, the news spread to the whole over the the Persian Empire, and the Persian Empire knew that the new king was Alexander the Great. So Alexander the Great continued to conquer and also went to Egypt, where he was given homage, and he was given respect for freeing them from the Persian people, because Persian people had taken over hostage over them. So he made a city which is in Egypt. When you go and check it to the map and also on the Google, you'll see a city which is in Egypt named after Alexander the Great. So Alexander the Great continued. So King Darius had escaped. So it was a must he killed King Darius so he can solidify his name as the emperor of the whole Persian Empire. So what they did, King Darius was killed by his fellow guards. He was killed with his fellow guards, and the news went back to Alexander, and Alexander knew that he was being killed. So Alexander was very furious because he wanted himself to kill the King Darius, and one thing he said, that only a king can kill a king. No one else was able to kill a king. So what Alexander did was to call out and sent those people who killed King Darius to come and to be executed, because they did something which is wrong, because that's betraying your master, and it wasn't the right thing for them, according to Alexander, for them to betray their master. And also it was to teach other and also his followers that no one should kill a king, only a king should kill a king. So later on in the years, Alexander was able, after conquering Persia, he was able to go further into other places. But what people didn't know, his army thought that Alexander, after conquering Persia, will just calm down and continue ruling. But what they didn't know, that he will advance into battle and also want to conquer more regions. And this was so diminishing for his soldiers and also his men, because they had stayed away from their families for a long time. And this was not their dream. The dream was only for Alexander. But Alexander was somebody who would inspire and who would lead people into battle. So he would inspire people through speeches and also inflict that war mentality into people. He was a good commander. So later on in the years, his army started breaking and it wasn't so strong. And one final battle which led to his army being breaking completely was the battle which happened in India. At that battle, they went into marshes, into swamps, mosquitoes. It was infested with mosquitoes and other diseases. His army got sick, but there was a war which happened, and these Indian people had elephants. They were very strong and also had elephants. They were fighting with elephants. This battle was bloody, and Alexander was almost died in this war. And also remember the horse of Alexander. It also succumbed to death because of exhaustion. It was so tired in this war and succumbed to death. So this affected deeply Alexander, and Alexander, after that fight, although he had won, he had a great loss. He suffered his greatest loss in his whole entire career. So after winning that battle with the Indians, Alexander the Great decided to go back. And after going back, he had a quarrel with his best friends, and he executed some of them, because some of the things which Alexander did, Alexander wanted to, the type of rule which the Persian people did of a king will be kissed on the hand. This is something which Alexander wanted to do. And also Alexander married the Persian people, and also these cultures integrated. So he left alone the cultures of the Greeks, and also and the Greeks and his own men didn't believe on Alexander on what he was doing, because one thing Alexander was doing this because he wanted to unite the Greeks and also unite the Persian together and show the Persian that he was one of them. But this also led him to a backlash in his own forefront at home, and people didn't like this. So later on, after Alexander retiring, and also they said he died of malaria and also other causes of his death. And that's the story of Alexander the Great, and that's why he's called Alexander the Great, because he conquered and won many battles, and some of his tactics were not favorable, but he used some of those tactics, and he was unpredictable in war, and he was clever in how he fought, and that's why he was able to conquer, and he was the first European to conquer almost all over the world. So that's the story of Alexander the Great. They say he's the greatest conqueror. So until I see you next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. So what you can do for me is maybe hit that subscription bell, and also after hitting that subscription bell, you can turn on the notification bell also, so that you can receive more videos like this, and also life stories of great people. And I say thank you, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and till we meet next time.